All right, so welcome to the first episode. It's the first episode of Wedding Capture Code. We decided to call
Yes,
it.
we finally did. I think that was that's why the reason it's taken us this long to get started, I feel, is just to decide
picking a
on the
name.
name.
We had a list of names. We were like, none of these actually work for us. We're not digging any of them. And then we went to a wedding fair and we just like said to my wife, Kate, what do you think of these names? And she's like,
She was quite polite about it, wasn't she? She didn't outright say, no, they're rubbish. She kind of pulled the like, oh, I don't know.
the same thing we did, basically. Oh, yeah, okay, they're names. And then we just decided between us, Wedding Capture Co. was quite cool.
Yeah, I think it describes perfectly what we're going to do, I think. Yeah.
So essentially what it's going to be is it's going to be a podcast about photography and videography in weddings. Because you're a photographer, I'm a videographer. We've both got a bit of experience. Like, I feel like I am pretty good in the business side of things as well as good in the video side of things, and you're pretty much the same.
I feel so, yeah. I think over the last sort of couple of years, I've really started to hone in on the business side as well as the photography side and kind of bring it all up together. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's one of the most important things is obviously running the business itself. And a lot of photographers and videographers, especially starting up, think that the most important thing is having those photos and videos perfectly nailed down, whereas actually like 90% of it is all the marketing and the admin and stuff. So we really wanted to start this podcast to give advice and tips and hints and tricks and things like that on the process of actually running the wedding business day to day, as well as, I guess, the filming and photography process.
And I think, anybody that's been in this industry for a amount of time rapidly realises that making nice films and taking pretty pictures is only probably the smallest part of what we do. Although that if you ask anybody outside our industry, they think that's all we do. Is, that we have the weekdays off, go to work on a Saturday, shoot a wedding.
Lounging around all week.
Exactly. And if only that was the case. And I think, I know that I've been in this, just over a decade now, and probably only over the last 2 or 3 years, I've really thought of myself as, I am actually running a small business. Up to then it was like, I'm paying my mortgage. I'm living day to day from taking pictures, and that was all that I ever wanted. So in that sense, I felt that I was successful, but it wasn't to now that I was starting to look into things and really start to grow where I am and look deeper into what I do that I've become a lot more passionate about that. And then, which is probably the reason that I'm sat here today.
I think a lot of people, I don't think anyone grows up wanting to be a wedding photographer or videographer. I think it's one of those things you kind of slip into. And then because of that, you do it because most people do it because of passion for like photos or for video or for like the actual, I don't know, maybe for gadgets or, things like that. Like some sort of thing gets you into that little lane. And then from there, you just sort of end up making videos and taking photos. And then and then you build the business around that usually, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think at the same token though, is people who are creatives don't set out to become business owners, or they don't feel that they go, oh, I want to be in business. And kind of the idea of like that kind of corporate and like business talk kind of feels a little bit icky because you're an artist and you're a creative, and that the two can't mix. And I think they definitely can. And you need to be, or find ways around making yourself as good at that side of your business so that you do get to do the fun stuff, or find the best people to do the fun stuff with, which is taking the pictures or making the films.
Yeah, exactly. As a one man sort of business, you're sort of expected to know the whole spectrum of all of that, starting a business. So anything from creating a website to your Instagram, and then managing your accounts, and then it's a whole thing, and that all sort of comes and builds up, and then eventually, like me and you, I feel like we've probably got our own workflows for those things that make it easier for us to manage. Whereas if you're just starting up, I feel like a lot of people don't think about those things until it happens, and it's like scrambling to get it done. For example, accounts.
Classic, isn't it, of learning from your mistakes? And I go further, I've felt that along the way. There's certain things that I've only put in place when I realised that I'm drowning in that area, and then I've probably got help too late. So it's kind of seeing those problems as they come, or putting those processes in place so that you don't get to a point where you're drowning in emails, or you're getting the same complaint from clients over and over again, and then you begin to realise that it's not them and it's probably you that just needs to change something.
Yeah, exactly. It's really easy to go overwhelmed.
I think so. Because we all work for ourselves, it's so easy to not have anyone around you to know different, to ask other creatives. And I think for the longest time, there's been a lot of kind of stigma, if you like, about it being quite, competition led, and you can't talk to another photographer in your area or speak to another videographer about how they run their business because it would seem that you don't know enough, or things like that. And I'd like to think that this podcast is going to kind of help break down some of those barriers and encourage you to have conversations with the creatives around you and I know from, doing things that we do and the conversations that we've had with not only between ourselves, but other photographers in our network, that hopefully we all kind of come up together.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the wedding collective that you're doing is a big part of that sort of what you're saying, collaboration with what is seen as the competition. Like, I had a client the other day say to me, I'm sure you don't talk to other videographers, but if you do have any recommendations. And I was like, well, I do, because that's actually more important in our industry than pretty much any other industry, is talking to the competition. And because the more people you know, the more videographers I know, the more I can send work to them, they can send work to me, and it's a happy way of living sort of thing in our industry.
I find the same, is that when you get an inquiry and you're booked is normally probably the biggest reason for me rejecting an inquiry. And you turn around and offer recommendations, they're like, oh, I'm almost really thankful that's even an option that you would offer. Yeah. Almost just go no and send them back
that
to the
you
drawing.
would recommend somebody else,
and let alone trying to find people which are a similar style to you, a similar price point to you. So you're almost finding someone which is the nearest to you in business, so they still get what they want, but you're offering it to them. And it's like, well, if I'm already booked, that seems a no-brainer. And if I can do that to someone else and they send work back to me, again, it just makes the whole industry a nicer place to be.
Exactly. There's plenty to go around, and the fact that we are in business pretty much alone, to having other people who are going through the same things as us, it really, really does help. And for example, over COVID, when like the Facebook groups popped up and everything, and everyone was going through the same thing, having a UK wedding videographers group where everyone was asking the same questions as you're thinking, like sat in your house, like, or your flat, like, I'm not really sure what to do about this, like reschedule or this cancellation. But then you just see everyone's going through the same thing and like offering each other advice, and that's a really big deal. And I think that's where this podcast stems from. It's just like there's going to be something in this podcast for everyone who's looking to start or have started a business, a photography. And
that there's something, there'll be something as the episodes go on in there for photographers and videographers at any level. It won't just be people that are purely starting out and have got a lot to learn. I don't think there's people that are a few months or a few years down the line that are maybe, are more in their own lane and don't particularly, maybe don't have those networks. It encourages them to start new networks or just to learn new skills as well.
Yeah, exactly. And in interest of keeping this one short, then let's just like do a quick like run through of who we are. Just for is anyone listening who doesn't know who we are? Do you want to?
I really hope there are people that we don't know who we are. Like, I know that my mum's probably going to listen, and some of the photographers that we do know. But yeah, I'd like there to be some people out there that we don't listen. That's my dog as well, who really wants us to play ball with him, but we're not going to. So yeah, so Max is here, who I'm sure has already said hello because you can hear his barking. But anyway, yeah, I am Tom. I run a business called Weddings by Tom. I try to keep everything as simple as I can. I shot my first wedding back in 2009, which was actually my last year as a student on my photography degree. And then throughout the years, I've slowly built my business. From there, I went full-time in 2015. So yes, I entered my 8th year as a full-time wedding photographer and shot probably over 300 weddings in that time, which seems bonkers.
That seems crazy to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm Chris. That's Max. And I run a business called Spice Wedding Films with my wife. It started as Chris Spice Films. The first wedding I filmed was back in 2015. And I only really did it just because I had the cameras and someone asked me to go film something. So that's how I ended up in that business. And then it kind of grew and just exponentially grew, like faster than I could ever expect, sort of thing. And now, I'm full-time. My wife still has a job, but she loves working with me and doing the wedding stuff with me.
I feel that's I'm really interested in this because I would love to see how the balance goes. And I think that's a conversation for an episode in itself, in that you work with your wife and I don't. So I think that's something we can definitely address.
Yes, definitely. I see a lot of sort of posts in groups saying, is it actually good working with your partner and things like that? And there are some really good parts of it, and there are some things that maybe would be better if you didn't work with someone who, is like family, if that makes sense, because, there's certain boundaries and things like that.
Don't give too much away. I think that's definitely going to go on. That's definitely going to go on the list for another episode, because I'm really intrigued myself to know that, and hopefully you all out there will be interested to is that address as well. So yeah, I think that kind of sums up who we are, and also like I think the need for the podcast is in the conversations that we've had is that I don't think, and correct us if we're wrong, that there is another podcast or a UK wedding podcast out there which sees things from both a photography and a video side. So, and I think whilst that we both go to weddings, we both wield cameras, that our workflows and our processes and things are going to be slightly different. Like, you would assume that there obviously are similarities, but at the same time, there are going to be some quite solid differences between obviously you making a moving image and me making a still one. And I like to think that, by having the podcast, that we can open those chats up, we can educate each other and also other photographers and videographers out there, that obviously when they go to work at their weddings and meet another supplier, a camera wielding supplier for the first time, that they can maybe know the questions to ask, or maybe learn things that can make it easier for them to get along on the day.
Definitely. And I feel like the process and the business side is very much similar between photography and videography. It's mainly just like the final getting around to the final product, isn't it? So I feel like by combining forces sort of thing, like you say, it's quite niche, and there's not a lot of photo and video based podcasts. So Lex really wants to be involved.
He's going to go in the garden a minute, stand in the rain. That's it. Be quiet.
But yeah, so, we're going to release a couple of episodes as the weeks go by. I think we're aiming for every other week.
Yeah, I think obviously because we both are, working photographers and videographers, that we do have clients to service and things like that. And we want to make sure that whatever we put out kind of stays consistent. So yeah, I think if we aim for sort of an episode once every couple of weeks, so sort of, 2 to 3 in the month, I think that's sensible for us to manage. But hopefully you don't come checking back every week expecting there to be a new drop and be disappointed.
We don't want to go in too hard every week and then just be
like, and that might change. This is our very first episode, and we have no idea who's going to listen or where it's going to go. Like, we have pretty heady goals for where we'd like it to go, but I think at the moment that's a sensible pace for us that we can keep. And
definitely. So yeah, so if you've got a wedding photography or videography business, or you're looking to start one, then carry on listening, because we'll be coming out with lots of different business related things, websites, accounting. Our first episode is going to be what to do to get ready for the 2023 wedding season. So loads of different things coming up. So subscribe and do whatever you do on the
do all the clicky, likey, subscribey things. And also, if there's a comment section on the platform that you're listening, if you have any ideas of things that you'd like us to talk about, or things that we can add to our ever growing episode board, please feel free to comment those, and we can add those to the list.
Yeah, amazing. It's going to be good.
Boom.
All right.
We're there. That's it.
Boom.
Thank you very much.
See you in the next one.
Thank you so much for listening, and see you in the next one.